all the way from the United Kingdom, Mr. Suresh Kumar, founder and CEO of Singular Intelligence. This is one company that actually looks at how AI can be deployed to support businesses, and more importantly retail. The use of analytics being a very powerful tool to enable businesses to actually move forward into the next league. I also know that the time is not really on our side at this point in time, so for the audience, please bear with us. This is our final speaker before the panel. We should be done in the next 10-12 minutes or so, and then we'll get the panel started. So Suresh, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. Good afternoon to everyone in Singapore and Southeast Asia, and good morning to other parts of the world. It's really been great to hear so many speakers this morning covering the entire gamut of AI, robotics, and retail. Just a quick introduction about myself and the company. I am founder and CEO of Singular Intelligence. I come with a background in data analytics, artificial intelligence for most of my career, focused on building technologies for decision augmentation through its various lives. Singular Intelligence is a company started with the support of University of Oxford in 2014. So we are 6 years into the business. Our focus is completely consumer goods and retail decision augmentation, a space which has really lots of complex use cases with large scale business impact, as I will explain later in my slides. The team spread between London, Oxford, and Bangalore in India is primarily a mix of AI researchers, industry experts in consumer goods and retail, and people with experience in advanced analytics. And we have an ecosystem, very strong ecosystem, other than Oxford, with retail research, with Microsoft, SAP, IBM. One of our biggest market data partners is Nielsen. And of course, we have great relationships and ongoing engagement with customers like Unilever. So with that complete focus on consumer goods and retail, let me talk to you a bit about what we did. We, coming from the background of advanced analytics, I found that one of the biggest challenges in decision making and suboptimal decisions is inability of decision makers to get the right insight at the right time. So the whole aspect of decision latency went into utilizing latest technologies of AI, cognitive modeling, and advanced analytics to build this applied AI product. To give you a very short, quick overview in the interest of the rest of the presentation, it's a product that is designed for the business user, that uses all market data from consumers, context, third party, weather, events, macroeconomic, demographics, all of the external market data that influences buyer behavior and therefore consumer trends, and therefore rest of the decisions that we need to take from the point of view of commercial performance. It of course uses internal data. So we use a applied AI engine that sources all relevant data. It has a deep reinforcement learning based multi-level solution that derives insights, and then there is a decision optimization layer which business users in retail, category managers, supply managers, planning in FMCG, in online can use it for specific use cases. Several implementations across. We are confident, and we are seeing that the philosophy of using all relevant external data and causal inference and improved techniques using AI methodologies has led to higher accuracy, granularity, and ability to use for high impact decisions. Very reliable product. So that's where we offer to the market a real time AI based decision engine. That's in summary an introduction to myself, my company. Uh, a quick view of that it's an end user design product, integrates with humans and machines as well, so it can integrate with autonomous retail also. With that intro, let me talk to you about what happened in the last 10 months. An important discussion that we are all having, the impact of COVID-19 on retail. And in the next few slides, I show some examples of the impact on some categories of food from data sourced from our third-party data partners. So we all know that we saw abnormal consumer behavior. What is interesting here is that if you see across different products, and I'm showing some products which we consume on a daily basis in our day-to-day lives, from in the last 1 year or so, this data, if you see from August to July, it is not once that it has gone through an abnormal behavior. It has gone through abnormal behavior all across. There is some correlation with the spread of COVID, which I would show in the later slides. There are two things. One is that consumer behavior changes. It has an important impact on short-term and long-term demand sensing, but it's not the same. The general tendency in retail is to look at things more at an aggregate level. That's what is happening in terms of data provision as well as modeling, which has been designed for aggregate market performance and impacts. So if you see this, in addition to the generalized nonlinear behavior across segments, categories, and products, there are clearly seen stockpiling trends around the COVID spread, and then the second, and then the as it moves, there are behavior changes across, but it's not the same for all the products. Moving to a similar example, while the purchase volume and purchase volume per buyer, so the other thing to see is matrices as well, has been changing. What is also changing is the number of trips the consumer is making and the number of trips per buyer as such. Now that has ramifications on a lot of other things, which I will show you in a bit why such a thing happens. I'll also tell you why I'm showing you this data, because it's all a relationship to what I say, that data is there. Using them and better techniques can actually help us solve this problem of retail disruption that we are seeing right now. So this is one example of the spread of COVID in a certain country and the corresponding impact, corresponding volume of sales, that's cases sales. Now it has a correlation. It does stabilize as well after a certain point of time, and it has its reasons. So there are, we see that there is a correlated stockpiling, but higher stable sales. It's not that it has remained same as the same period last year. A very interesting data is about mobility of people. So there is data available from Google on mobility in different areas, so retail, recreation, grocery. So the bottom graph that you see talks about how mobility has rapidly reduced, and then it is trying to come back up. So anything from 0 is complete reduction from the normal days. It's not that it's coming back to normal, it's actually gaining, it's actually reducing in abnormality, as the graph says, and then the corresponding higher sales. So this is a good indication of drop in mobility versus changing sales. There is a difference in mobility versus changing sales, drop in mobility in workplaces, drop in mobility in residential areas, and there is a certain, again, there is some correlation there. Different granular data, even in mobility, can actually lead to better insights on locational sales profiles, is the point that I am making. A very interesting, and this may not be a very clear graph, but let me share with you the insight that here, when we compared a selection of food products and their Google search patterns, they show variability, significant variability over time. And obviously, it could be related to event seasonality, but they also have relationship to COVID spread and lockdown. And the correlation, the brand share of search lags the brand share of sales. Now, this is a good indication that you could use for short-term demand sensing online data and consumer behavior online to figure out what is likely to happen. I showed you a number of these insights from different types of data available for a reason. That what do we need for effective retail? We need to understand fundamentally consumer trends. She's the one who is buying. And that trends and preferences reflect themselves in choices. Choice of products, choice of channels, how frequently he or she will buy, the shopper, how much. You saw some of my earlier slides on buying frequency and volume. The demographic preferences, from elderlies who may be isolating to younger people who are going out in the current times. How does this change in regions with different demographics along average income per in the area, social differences, ethnic differences versus ethnic products, and of course regional preferences. So many of these consumer trends that we need to know are there in data. Question is, how do you use them? There are challenges. So here we come to something that we experimented in the last few months with available data with our customers and partners. With all the external data that I have shown you, you mash it up with sales, historical sales, and it is possible to use some of the techniques on agent-based modeling, concepts of game theory, bargain models, and traditional combining it even with the mathematics of regression to determine changing consumer preferences on a dynamic basis. And it is this metrics of dynamic consumer preference that can be used, which you have seen from the insight of data, to gain a better understanding of short-term demand sensing as well as long-term demand sensing as to which preferences will stay, which preferences will be medium-term, and which preferences will be long-term. And we saw that in actual practice, we saw that both accuracy and fit for demand models went up by using this new insight from external factors and data. So conclusion, simple, straightforward, that building an AI and data core for business model agility in the new consumer retail, the fundamental problem is how do you get to know what is going to happen in a significantly variable market that it is today. And if you get to know, what do you do in the retail supply chain, fulfillment value chain, and how do you do that? And that's where I come to building AI and data to the core of the business model for gaining that business model agility in which you can anticipate, sense, get a digital metrics-based idea of granular understanding of the products, requirements, assortments, categories, locational variations, time variations, all of that, and that kind of algorithmic business that can be built using all of these data, as I explained to you, through the product architecture, and the latest advances in AI to customize it for your modeling techniques. So that's the vision of an omni-channel retail that can give you a level of personalization. So how do you break it down? Uh, Assuming that this situation continues for the next few years, and before it finishes off completely, there is another market crisis and turmoil. We need to have systems of detecting market anomalies, and there is market data that can lead you to, with appropriate techniques in AI, to detect market anomalies, to detect consumer trends, as I have shown earlier in the slides, to gain an understanding of short and long term demand. With that, you get an idea of granular price and promo optimization, leading to personalization, local, segment, individual consumers and shoppers, and use that data to work with suppliers and distribution chain for collaborative fulfillment. I give you an example. We did a study of an output of our own tool on a certain retailers, thousands of stores within UK for a certain category, and we found that optimizing um, personal recommendation and promotions for that particular category just over 12-week period would lead to 26% gain in volume sales and 14% gain in value sales. Now that's a, a lot of business impact in a developed market scenario, which can lead to a profit pool that is lost, which can lead to viability of retailers. That is one of the biggest challenges in today's context. So, net, what I say is it is not a new business model. It is actually an agile innovation capability in the business model that will be important to survive and thrive. Build systems for adapting to change. Build, I mean, it may look like that saying it in algorithmic business is a bit too much, but the fact is, what are we talking about? What we're talking about industrialized use of AI systems within the organization designed for the business users. So the algorithmic complexity must be hidden within automation and self-learning that grows and matures with time. Then obviously all of that designed for seamless consumption by humans and machines in the value chain. So re-emphasizing the point, it is not a new business model, but the agile innovation capability in the business model. That is something that bringing AI and data to the core of the organization, a data-rich retail, would be of value. An example use case of this, and in fact, we are, actively working on this as well, is a solution that here we are talking about a smart robo with omni-channel federated intelligence that connects with the retail stores, that connects with the retail stores' online presence. And that also, why federated? Because you can share intelligence on a need basis with other collaborators in the value chain without compromising your security. So a solution that brings in omni-channel federated intelligence can be a great enabler for collaboration between the shopper and the retailer and the retailers in the supply chain, something that will ensure that this becomes core to the capability to personalize and collaborate. As you can see in this diagram, what I'm showing is from these omni-channel experiences, the intelligence shares references, stocks and supplies, demand information, passes recommendations to the consumer. So it's actually a hub of personalization and collaboration capability in the value chain, connecting to the extended ecosystem. Just a way of showing the same thing of what it may actually mean. It could be an intelligent app on online store. It could be contactless robo that we are talking about in the retail store, but this can all be connected with what I have shown here through a omni-channel federated intelligence. So I spoke about the challenges. I spoke about how data can actually solve at a very practical level how new techniques can actually work, and we have shown them in evidence in working, and how they can all be pooled together to achieve this vision of collaborative, personalized retail in the value chain. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you so much for that presentation. Well, I guess, Jesse, I'm just so impressed with all our speakers today.